The history of modern Turkey peers in many fascinating directions at once. From early settlements 9,000 years old, to thriving Greek and Roman cities familiar to readers of Homer or the New Testament. From Byzantine grandeur to the flourishing Islamic empire of the Ottomans, and now to a modern republic. Turkey offers expansive views of how cultures influence and change each other and also preserve those earlier connections. In the summer of 2008, I traveled with a group of American teachers on a grant from the Turkish Cultural Foundation for a 10-day immersion in Turkey's history, geography, culture, and current politics. Our journey began in Istanbul, Old Constantinople, which, with its position along the Bosporus, straddling Europe and Asia and home now to 12 million people, is surely one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Constantinople was the heart of the Byzantine Empire, and the breach of the old city walls in 1453, and thus the conquest of the capital by Ottoman Turks, marks one of the decisive strategic and symbolic shifts in modern history. Today the city is rich with remnants of both Ottoman and Byzantine glories, from the breathtaking cathedral of Hagia Sophia to the Egyptian obelisk in the Hippodrome, Justinian's vast underground cisterns, elegant Topkapi Palace, and 15th century fortress walls built under Mehmed II. While we were in Istanbul, we visited the first of 3 schools on our itinerary, Darüşşafaka, dating back to the 1860s heyday of Ottoman reforms. It was set up with a mission of educating fatherless children and is now a prestigious boarding school run by a private foundation. 750 students fill grades 4 through 12, and the school occupies a pristine campus near the modern financial district of Istanbul. Not many students lingered for the summer months, but we did find one truant struggling with his history lessons, prone, we were told, to daydreaming. From Istanbul, we traveled east toward the epicenter of the terrible 1999 earthquake, which claimed 17,000 lives in and around Adapazarı. In its wake, the Turkish construction company Inca founded a school here, which gave priority admission to sons and daughters of earthquake victims. An IB candidate school partnered with an international school in Zurich. Inca is home to over 500 students, pre-K through 12. In the sprawling metal buildings, mounted data projectors make every classroom high-tech. And in the dining hall, we ate, as the students would, family style, with Inca faculty members. From the school, we headed south to Iznik, a ceramics and tile production center, and Bursa, the old Ottoman capital, before pressing onward toward the lavish ruins of Ephesus and Aphrodisias. Here near the Aegean coast, in the heart of old Greco-Roman Anatolia, enormous theaters, a stadium, an oversized library, intact roads, backgammon-type board games, fertility tributes, public facilities, still marvelously legible inscriptions, and representations of death make millennia-old human life instantly recognizable and even haunting, as in this rescued bust of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who still seems lost in meditation, or this fallen head from a 2nd century statue of Eros, the god of love. If you read enough history, you know better than to romanticize the remote past, which was rife with indignities and injustice. Still, I couldn't resist the spell of these places, the reach for beauty and glory, overruled by a mundane and irreversible decline, history's oldest parable. It was in this region that we visited our 3rd and final school, a smaller, poorer village school with 200 students in grades K through 8. Some students were around to greet us, and in an otherwise modest facility, they happily showed off a computer lab donated by a Turkish businessman wired for the World Wide Web. Like their American counterparts, left to their own devices, students prioritized changing screensavers and background themes, and like children everywhere, tipped their personalities easily to the lens of a camera. From the coast, we traveled inland across the high Anatolian plateau, pausing as Marco Polo would at a 13th century caravanserai, one of the hotel-like caravan stops spaced at intervals of a day's travel to protect merchants from medieval bandits. Past the dramatic calcium glacier of Pamukkale and on past Konya, we stopped for an afternoon at Çatalhöyük, one of the earliest known gatherings of human ancestors, in villages 9,000 years old. The site is an active archaeological dig, and on the day we visited, a piece of a skull and an eagle's talon had been freed by an archaeologist's spade, and traces of ancient painting were visible on the clay walls. From Çatalhöyük, we entered the stunning, almost lunar landscape of Cappadocia, whose unreal columns of volcanic earth were pocked with monastery caves and intimate frescoed churches, as well as ancient residences, and these perches for pigeons, whose droppings were used by monks to fertilize their vineyards. History and geography intersect everywhere in Turkey, as do junctures between cultures and epochs. Even Ankara, where we finished our journey, the modern capital of the country, Washington, D.C. to Istanbul's New York, surrounds an older town whose Roman walls are still prominent against a hillside. Turkey today remains a kind of bridge culture, not only between Europe and Asia physically, but also politically. It's a secular democracy by constitution, and its population is almost entirely Muslim. It shares frontiers with Iraq and Iran, and borders the Black Sea near Russia. It still remains in quest of membership in the European Union. A close ally of the United States in a volatile region, Turkey is a long-standing member of NATO. If Turkey's present and future are of vital interest to Western nations, its past gives it a depth and range and splendor that not many places can match. And now, if you'll excuse me,